anyone shopping for pearls should watch this video.
Dark colors appear in Tahitian pearls or Fijian pearls, pearls from the Pinctada margaritifera. Other shells don't produce those colors. They don't produce black colors. So black is not a natural color unless it comes specifically from that shell. So if you've got a black Akoya pearl, it's dyed. If you have a black freshwater pearl, like you're wearing, it has been color treated. It is dyed. The color is not natural. It's a misconception because people know that those black pearls exist. They think they're buying naturally black pearls, and the truth is they're buying color-treated pearls, which may or may not last.
What is an oyster's favorite band? Pearl Jam. I'm sorry, please don't leave. Many men and women who want to build their pearl jewelry collection are turning to online sources to narrow down their search for their future heirloom piece. And they're being bombarded with nonsense. Quadruple A pearls being sold for $200, oysters you can pry a dyed pearl out of, cheap pearls being sold for high prices. You, the customer, don't have to put up with this crap. Thanks to the help of Jeremy Shepard of Pearl Paradise, we're going to discuss how to shop for pearls, or more importantly, how not to shop for pearls. And you are going to walk away from this video ready to make your pearl purchase without being swindled, hoodwinked, or bamboozled. Let's start with what may be the biggest issue facing pearl shoppers today, the grading system. The typical pearl grades you may see from a seller are A, AA, and AAA. The implication is the more A's, the higher quality the pearl. Jeremy Shepard of Pearl Paradise is going to help make sense of all this drama.
Grading is completely subjective when it comes to pearls, and shopping by grade is the biggest mistake I think people make when they shop for pearls. When you're shopping for diamonds, you know what the C's are. You're looking for particular cut, particular clarity, etc. And it's commodified. Diamonds will be GIA certified or EGL certified, and when you know what that means, you know what the value is of the diamonds. Pearls are completely different. There are no internationally recognized grading standards for pearls. Now, in the industry, we know that there's like luster, there's shape, there's color, there's surface, but all of the standards are subjective. If you're looking at a pearl that is graded AAA, for example, by a seller, and you're thinking, okay, well, this is a AAA pearl or AAA strand of pearls. I'm going to do some research and see if I can find a AAA strand of pearls for a little bit less. The reality is that AAA only means something to the person that's selling. If there were 1,000 pearl sellers lined up in a row, there would be 1,000 different versions of AAA, which is why you can go on eBay, for example, and type in AAA Akoya pearls, and you can buy a strand of AAA Akoya pearls for $10, $15, $20, yet you go to Mikimoto, and that same strand is $20,000.
If you want to learn more about pearls, especially if you work in the trade, I highly recommend visiting Pearl Guide, pearl-guide.com, a forum that features some of the industry's leading pearl experts and can answer questions you didn't even know you had about pearls. And if you work in the trade, or if you're a pearl enthusiast, keep watching the video if you want to learn about accessing the CPAA's Pearls As One online educational pearl course for free.
I would say the number one scam is definitely the grading. People try to create a yardstick or a measuring stick, for example, and saying my AAA is cheaper than anybody else's, or my AA plus is cheaper than anybody else's. And the reality is there's no comparison. It's impossible to compare. There's also the fact that websites are really easy to make, and any stories are really easy to tell. In researching websites or researching sellers, things to watch for are A, do they have a telephone number? That's always really important, but not just do they have a telephone number. Does the telephone number work? Does the website or do the people behind the website offer things like pictures of the pearls that you're going to receive? You'll find that if you email many websites, they'll say, oh, I'm sorry, we don't offer pictures, or no, we can't take pictures, or no, everything is made to order. Well, the reason they're telling you that is because they don't have the pearls. They're not actually selling their own pearls.
We don't want to discourage you from making a pearl purchase. It's actually the opposite. If you are knowledgeable of the unscrupulous sellers out there, you can avoid them. And not all pearls are created equal. If you have a foundational knowledge of what you're shopping for, you can make an informed decision. Let's go over some pearl basics, and later in this video, we'll discuss some of the biggest myths in pearlology today. And by discuss, I mean Jeremy is gonna yell passionately about it, so stick around.
Pearls do not form around a grain of sand.
This video gets good.
You know, you probably heard before, you've got saltwater and freshwater, or you've got saltwater and cultured. It's definitely more than that. First and foremost, always cultured. Yes, there are natural pearls. Natural pearls do exist, but natural pearls haven't been harvested commercially, unless you're talking about a very small operation in Bahrain, which has been going on for a few years. They haven't been harvested commercially for about 100 years. Since Kokichi Mikimoto came up with the way of coaxing a shell to produce a pearl, all pearls have been cultured. All pearls on the market, and that includes saltwater pearls, freshwater pearls, doesn't matter what kind of pearl. That's number one. After that, the types of pearls. You've got Akoya pearls, which I would describe as the classic, if you will. These are the pearls that have been around for, about 100 years. The first pearls that Kokichi Mikimoto cultured. The pearls you think of when you think of a strand of white pearls. Next up, you've got freshwater pearls. Freshwater pearls are grown almost exclusively in China. There's a small production still happening in Japan. Then you've got black pearls, and I call them black pearls, although it's a bit of a misnomer because black pearls or Tahitian pearls can be any color from white all the way to black and every color under the rainbow. Tahitian pearls, if they are Tahitian pearls, are grown uniquely in French Polynesia, not on the island of Tahiti, but out in the atolls like Takaroa, Maruteyasu, Nego, places outside of Tahiti proper. If these pearls are not grown in Tahiti, they are coming out of the same shell, but they're not called Tahitian pearls. For example, you've got Cook Island pearls, which are often actually sold as Tahitian pearls because they're basically identical, but they're not grown in Tahiti, so they're called Cook Island pearls. You've also got Marshall Island pearls. You've got black pearls that are grown in Micronesia. And then you've got pearls that are even grown in Fiji.
I'm going to interrupt Jeremy's superlative, get it, explanation to inform you that if you enjoy learning about pearls, you can use the discount code JOTT to get the Pearls As One course from CPAA completely free. Details in the description if you need them, but that's pretty much the gist. Also, if you've learned something you didn't already know, please smash that like button. And if you want to show meaningful support, please leave me a comment letting me know your questions about pearls so that we can answer them in future videos. Back to Jeremy.
Then you've got South Sea pearls, which are, say, the highest tier of pearls. Part of the reason is the shells only grow one pearl at a time. They have to grow in areas far, far removed from any sort of pollution. So we're talking hundreds of miles out into the outback if you're talking about Australia and Northwest Australia.
Misuse of pearl terminology in the trade leads to confusion and distrust among consumers. It's important to note that Akoya, South Sea, and Tahitian pearls are all categorized as saltwater pearls. And again, over 99% of freshwater and saltwater pearls on the market are cultured, meaning they're still grown in mollusks, but as a result of human intervention.
Years past, the only type of cultured pearl was the Akoya pearl. So a lot of jewelers today will still refer to Akoya pearls as cultured. So the misconception is that other pearls aren't cultured, but they are all cultured. Another misconception that I see quite a bit is the color. In those pearl oyster opening parties on YouTube, they'll often harvest pearls that are black or gray or silver. Those are not natural colors. Dark colors appear in Tahitian pearls or Fijian pearls, pearls from the Pinctada margaritifera. Other shells don't produce those colors. They don't produce black colors. So black is not a natural color unless it comes specifically from that shell. So if you've got a black Akoya pearl, it's dyed. If you have a black freshwater pearl, like you're wearing, it has been color treated. It is dyed. The color is not natural. It's a misconception because people know that those black pearls exist and they think they're buying naturally black pearls. The truth is they're buying color treated pearls, which may or may not last, or the color may or may not last. It may fade.
There are lots of ethical, honest pearl sellers out there. You can get a quality product for a fair price and be confident in your purchase. Start by talking to your local independent jewelry store or at the very least, an independent business that you can connect with personally. I'm also going to include links to pearl sellers in this video description that would be happy to chat with you, including Jeremy Shepard of Pearl Paradise, also a co-writer of CPAA's Pearls As One online course, so a pearl education professional, and an administrator of pearlguide.com.
In shopping online, more important than anything else is know who you're buying from, and specifically know what background the people have that you're buying from, how they source their pearls, how they grade their pearls. I would say the number one tip I would give is that this is an important purchase for almost anyone. I mean, it could be a few $100s up to tens of thousands of dollars. Ask for photos. Talk to the people you're actually buying from. Don't just buy something randomly from a website, because if you do, you have no idea what you're going to get.
So I promised passionate yelling. Let's talk about the number one biggest myth in pearls today, and watch to the end to learn about the pearl lie you've probably seen here on YouTube, but not on my channel, because Jewels of the Trade is the channel for spreading accurate information on jewelry and gemstones.
The number one myth. This has to be the number one myth. Pearls do not form around a grain of sand. That is the number one myth. Pearls do not form around a grain of sand. If pearls formed around a grain of sand, when you went to the beach, you'd be walking on pearls, not sand. You've got a shell, okay? And the shell has an organ around each side of the lip, or each side of the valve, and it's called the mantle, okay? And this mantle muscle, and I'm saying muscle, M-U-S-C-L-E, not M-U-S-S-E-L, which produces freshwater pearls. This mantle muscle has these cells called epithelial cells. And these epithelial cells have one job in life, just one, and that is to grow the shell, which is why the shell just keeps growing and growing and growing. And so these cells on the lip of the shell, all they do is secrete the substance called nacre. So when these cells get displaced inside this mollusk, oyster, pearl oyster, they continue doing what they're genetically programmed to do, and that is to create nacre. Now, there's also another step of, forming into a pearl sac and then secreting the nacre in sort of an enclosed space in the body. But, to keep it simple in layman's terms, it's basically taking these cells that are pointed at the top of the shell and secreting this nacre to grow this shell for their entire life and turning them around. They do not get formed because this oyster gets a piece of sand in their gonad or something, and say gonad, that's actually where pearls are cultured, so I should have pointed that out first. It's not because a piece of sand gets stuck somewhere in the oyster and the shell gets irritated. So in order to stop the irritation, it coats this grain of sand. And I'm saying all this because I've read this before, I've seen this before, this is how it's been explained. So it coats that intruder with this smooth nacre, which makes it just feel all nice inside. No. Okay, oysters don't have central nervous systems. They don't get irritated. They don't care about sand. If they cared about sand, they wouldn't live in the ocean. Scam is kind of a strong word for this, I would say. But in a way, it's sort of a trick. That is these pearl in the oyster things that you'll see a lot of. I think they were, about 2 years ago, they were trending pretty strongly. And so many people were logging on to watch people open these oysters and harvest these pearls. And the crazy thing is, they're harvesting, or they're opening these little tiny Akoya oysters, baby Akoya oysters, and they're pulling out freshwater pearls. Or they're pulling out dyed pearls. They're pulling out pearls that cannot be grown in those shells. So it's sort of a little industry trade secret. And the reason I say it's a secret is because this has been going on for a long time. If you go to Hawaii, you see these booths where you can, ring a bell, choose an oyster, open your oyster, pull out your pearl, get it set in jewelry. And the story you'll hear from the people selling the pearls is that, we x-ray every oyster to make sure that everyone has a pearl, or, it's been growing in this shell for 4 years, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the truth, okay? There are factories in China, and this is done exclusively in China. It used to be done also in Japan, but now it's done in China, where they take shells from hatcheries. And, pearl farms buy shells from hatcheries. That's what they use to grow pearls in the farms. And they buy these baby shells. And then they also buy loose pearls. And these loose pearls, they can be semi-round, they can be dyed, they can even sometimes, and this is crazy, they can even be drilled. I've seen drilled pearls come out of these things before. I guess the oyster drilled pearls from the inside out. I'm not sure. And so what they do at these factories is they open the shells, they take one of those pearls, they insert it into the oyster where you would expect to harvest one, and then they take the shell and they drop it into a solution of like alcohol and formaldehyde, which causes the shell to die and constrict and close. And then they put it in this this little bag that's like vacuum sealed so that it'll smell okay when it's opened a month or so later on the other side of the world, and the pearls are harvested. The pearls that are being harvested on these YouTube shows were actually harvested, months before, years before, and then stuck into a baby oyster. And really what you're watching it's just a show. It's sort of make-believe.